Okay, so now that we have these ears in place, let's go ahead and add some eyes and some eyelids. And so what we're going to use is a sphere for this, and it can just be a standard sphere. We're going to move it up in place from the front view. Just reduce it down, and we'll move it forward. Just trying to get it in place here. And you can get away with, with a lot of these stylized characters, you can really just get away with having spheres for the eyes. These are just going to be nice little black, shiny eyes in my mind. This is how I kind of want this character to look. So we don't have any cheek definition here. So really what we're just doing is placing some eyes. And this is where you can sort of eyeball it. And I guess I meant that pun as well, but we can just move on from that. So this will just be a shiny, cute little eye because the character, there's so much more to this character than the face. So having an eye just be this nice little round shape is going to be just fine for our purposes. So we'll just call this the left eye. We'll keep it parametric for now because what I want to do is Control-click to drag out a new sphere right where that one was and just kind of make it a little bit bigger. Because what we're going to use now is we're going to change this object mode to hemisphere. And this will create an easy eyelid that we can use. And if I rotate it from that center, you can actually even see that it just rotates right there. So we'll probably turn it a little bit so that the rotation of that eyelid is a little bit more centered to where this normal of the face is. And also what I want to do is, under this left eye, we'll call it left eyelid. What I want to do is add a little bit more thickness to it. So let's do this. Let's grab an edge loop. We got to make this one editable. So right now it looks like we've grabbed that edge, which is good. And I'm going to do an extrusion inner, which is MW. Is that right? MW to extrude inner. Real quick, what I'm going to do is use this solo single on this little button over here. You just drag it down to viewport solo single, so I can only see this eyelid. MW is supposed to give me an extrude inner, but it's not really doing that. So if I do an extrude, okay, so instead let's just do an MT to do an extrude, just a standard extrude, and you can just drag out, and then just do a scale, switch to your scale mode, and that just gives us an easy, quick thickness to our eye lid. And then if we turn off that solo, you can see that it's now got some thickness to it. I'm going to add one more edge loop there, right around here. And with that edge loop selected, UL, not selecting boundary loop, but just selecting this edge loop. I'm just going to solo it out. I want to make sure this axis is facing that direction. So if I do axis mode, we'll turn it so that it's kind of facing that way, and then we'll just pull it out a little bit. So what that's going to do is it's going to round that off a little bit, so that when we turn on the subdivision surface for this eyelid, it will look much more rounded. And actually, let's add another edge loop in here with an ML for edge loop, making sure our eyelid's selected. And this time we'll grab that inner boundary loop and we'll just move that up. I'm using both these axes, the Z and the X, in the side view. Okay, I'm pressing S to center this up. Yeah, so we've rounded it out just with this really simple geometry. And what we can do now is put this inside of its own subdivision surface, and now we've got this really cool looking eyelid. Let's call it the left eyelid top, because we want to also have another one on the bottom. So what we can do then is just Control drag and select, or Control drag it to create a copy of it, and we'll do left eyelid bottom. Change the name of this one and this one. And we should be able to just do a full 180 using the z-axis there. It did work just fine, and I'm just going to drag this one to about right here on this rotation. Just unsolo everything. The bottom eyelid and the top eyelid, what we're going to do when we rig is we're going to create a slider that allows us to blink these eyelids to about right there. This is where I want it to blink to. I'm going to click render just to see what that looks like when it's blinked. Yeah, so this works. This works fine. For our purposes of doing a very simple character, having an eyelid that's made out of a hemisphere, we'll just have it about right there for our character. All right. Let's copy this over. We're going to call this the left eye. I'm going to group this all together. Left eye. And also what I want to do is make sure that the center anchor point for that null is right there, which it is. So that's good. If it wasn't, what you could do is just go up to Mesh and then Axis Center and then Center to Parent, or I guess it's Center Parent to. So if you have your left eye and it's perfectly centered like that, you can go up to Mesh, Axis Center, and then Center Parent to, and it'll change that null, that's the parent of all of those pieces, to make sure that that's centered to where that eye was. So I'm also going to make this one editable, even though it doesn't really need to be. And then what I want to do now is copy by control clicking. Let's make sure this says right eye. There are easy ways to name these using the naming tool, but we'll go over those more when I do the joints and stuff. Okay. Probably just fast forward through that. Okay, so then we just need to work on these coordinates again. Instead of being 11, we're going to do a negative 11. And on these rotations, on the eyelids, I want to make sure in the H it's a negative 10.4. And on the top, same thing. So it's just rotating it out in the other direction the same way that we did on this eyelid. So at this point, it's a good time to maybe tackle the mouth. And there's a couple of different ways you can approach this. In one of my projects, I cut a hole in the mouth. And in most 3D characters that you're going to animate using lip sync, especially if you need lip sync, actually, you're going to need to have a lot of different mouth shapes that are cut straight out of the geometry of the head. Then you create an opening inside of the mouth. There's a whole sphere inside that is where the mouth cavity is, and then you have to add teeth and tongue and all that kind of stuff. But for this character, we're just going to keep it simple. And what I want to do is just create a small shape that we can manipulate using pose morphs. So let's make it a cube. Let's start with a cube, just some good old-fashioned box modeling. We're going to get it nice and centered up on the face, real small. We're going to start adding definition to it. But you'll see how easily we can start to create a shape, then manipulate it. Do you want me to hold off for a second? Okay. So right now it's just a little cube, and then what I'm going to do is go ahead and just make it editable. Make sure we're in object mode to just kind of shrink it way down. Okay, I'm going to add some loops here. We'll add one right in the middle for now. And I'm going to start to extrude outward. I just want to shrink it by the Y at this point. I don't want it to get smaller on the left and right. Front and back, I should say. I'm just making a little mouth shape here that we're going to manipulate using pose morphs. Pose morphs are these sliders that you can decide, to generate various things. You can manipulate the vertices and have those attached to a slider. You can manipulate the whole rotation of the entire object and have that attached to a slider. And those sliders can combine with each other, so it makes it really versatile to create lots of interesting shapes just using pose morphs. I'm just kind of pulling this mouth around a little bit. I'm just going to see how I like it once I put it against the face here. And in the design, it's up here. So I actually feel like it needs to be even thinner. So we're going to go ahead and grab these faces, all of them at the bottom. I think knowing when to use faces, edges, points, all that stuff kind of comes with time and instinct, and just kind of as you're working, you just realize, you know what, it's probably better for me to grab this one face here. I don't need to grab vertices or any of that stuff. Okay, so this is just a base shape to work with for our mouth. And if we click render here, you can see that it actually, it doesn't look too bad right now. I am going to take this whole shape though, and I'm going to subdivide it. First, let me see what happens when I put it into a subdivision surface. It's probably going to be a little too, well, you know what? That's actually kind of cute. I like that it's this nice little kind of worm shape here. But just to give it a little bit more definition on the ends, I am going to add maybe a couple of subdivisions here. Can't really see it from that angle, so I'm going to do an M, L for a loop. Okay. So now we've got this nice little mouth that we can manipulate how we want. Make it a little bit wider. There we go. Okay. So this should be fine. In fact, I think what I want to try to do now is just to add a little bit of, I'll skip over that. I'm going to create a material just for the mouth so that we can see it a little better as we're working. Just going to make a quick, easy black material. Still is kind of hard to see. So what I'm going to do is turn on constant shading and create new pose morphs for it, where maybe it can get wider over here, and she can make an like a surprised face or a sad face. We can make this happen in a lot of different ways, but this will be a nice versatile shape because it is a cube. We can pull those points around however we want, and very, very quickly. So let's just call this the mouth, SDS. So I also want to, this can be a break, but I like this shape enough that I feel like I'd like to use it for the eyebrows. Right now what I'm doing is I'm just going to center this up in the face a little bit better. That's a nice place to put it for like a pose, but for now I'd like to have it just in the center. I'm going to move some of these things around just a bit. Use my sculpting tool for this. Just so that it's wrapping around the face a little bit better. There we go. There we go. Maybe a little bit more on this side. Okay. So now we have that mouth shape that we can kind of at least just keep there for now. And I'm going to use that same shape and I'll make it a little longer for some eyebrows. just a little bit of eyebrow definition, because that really does add to the ability to make expressive faces later on. I want this to say eyebrow left. I'll go ahead and just move it up and flip it. I wonder if anyone will be able to tell if this is actually the same exact shape as the mouth. I'm not sure, but we will use it for now. If we decide we don't like it, we can change it later. For now, I actually really like that it's this nice little arc. And I'll even just kind of make it a little wider. It looks like we're... Okay, so I do need to recenter this anchor point to right here. So what I'll do is I'll just grab that eyebrow L, and I'll go down to axis center and do center parent to. Now it should be right there. That's good. All right, so let's just make a copy of it. Eyebrow right. And we'll just do the same thing that we've done the others, where we just do a -1 on the x-axis. Where that flips it. And I might need to do a little of this. There we go. Look at that. We now have this cute little face. Might want to make these just a little wider, so I'm going to do that. Wonder if I can grab both of these at the same time and just do a quick object axis, making sure it's on per object manipulation. There we go. Okay.